As for our endeavor, however, because the systems in the Aratrum have gone offline and someone conspicuously ejected all of the Disney movies, I have been in charge of your entertainment for the night. I always see such as enlightening the mind as a good outlet for entertainment, and so I have picked this movie from the archives. I do apologize on the matter of in the English language. The track for that tape was very heavily damaged by Godzilla's radiation. Therefore, we'll be using the Spanish language track. However, this movie has what I understand are pretty visuals to the Herman sensibilities, and therefore it's fairly easy to follow. Myself and Tokoyami will also be available for translation.
Also try, because I'm probably just going to joke around with it.
If you so wish.
Also, Lord Metphis, is my mind playing illusions on me, or did I hear a muffled screaming of Godzilla from somewhere nearby?
No, I believe that would be Gamera, because we don't have the copyright for Godzilla in this feature right now. We'll be hearing lots of that, actually.
Please, what does the computer say?
It says the ratings are 1006.
Sounds good.
See what I meant about the Gamera audio? Daiei Studios bankrupted themselves when Baragon attacked their company. Therefore, they were fairly easy to license out.
What the?
No, you know, I thought that was the giant rat monsters that bankrupted their company.
Yeesh. Honestly, those designs are making my eyes a bit dinosaur.
Well, they were endeavors by human artists at the time. Such a flawed method is bound to engender flawed results. As you can see here, Pteranodon was rendered with teeth, despite the name being literally opposite of such. And the dichotomy of the extinction with the modern day humanity should be taken note of.
So, Lord Metphis, why is it in the background I can hear a muffled man saying, "Oh, Frodo"?
I pay that no heed. I shall not either. Such dichotomy.
Indeed. Technology!
He calls for it to cease, and yet he calls for it to cease over the matter of a simple flower. The building of which is going to be constructed here could house hundreds, and yet he is arguing over the matter of a simple flower. Who is the ignorant one here? Himself, for arguing the matter of life being equal regardless of its humanity and sapience? Or the construction crew and trying to propagate that sapience? As we'll see later, the determination between sapient and non-sapient life is but a boundary of arbitrary lines decided upon by nothing more than the synapses of a simple brain.
Tarb, you're sounding more and more like a National Geographic documentary.
I do not know who Tarb is. Though that man in the corner perked up at the noise, I would prefer you not interrupt.
It did anything to the man in the corner, I swear.
And now he's insulting the child and calling him, his name is, cat? Yes, he calling him a cat. No, it was a synonym. English is such a silly language.
Think
he called him a pussy then?
It's not calling him a gatito. And here he is speculating on how this whole area used to be a pristine forest when his grandfather was but a child. Now it is nothing but a sea of gray and pollution.
Gotta leave, dinner's ready. See you then.
Bye, Paul. See you later.
Your food cubes will be dispensed in the order of the hall.
Yes, the butterflies are important.
Yes, well, to him, all life must be sacred. After all life should be treated as equal. After all, the cells of his body are not that different than the cells of that tree. And considering the glimmer in his eye, I wonder if he has inhaled any illicit substances lately.
It would certainly explain a good deal about this movie.
What in the...
You might have
I
way
wonder-
too much sugar.
I do have to wonder, though, if there are any illicit substances aboard this ship. I have to wonder how the viewing experience would be positively or negatively affected there of such.
Some articles and items help indulge in communion with the Almighty. Come to the Gamatron Hall after the showing, and I shall demonstrate. Mind the shadows.
Noted.
Ow.
I'm fine. I don't want to lose my head over it.
It almost looks like the marijuana leaf.
The uncanny resemblance to marijuana leaves is not to be unnoted. Nor the fact that that child apparently has another face for eyes. Look, he has two mouths in his eye sockets.
Huh.
And I thought this one rock-type Pokemon trainer or from an anime I saw as a child had bizarre eyes. Good grief, what are with your lips?
Clearly
Those
this
are some
child
big lips.
actually evolved a beak. Now they're insulting his taste in reading poetry instead of playing ball like they are. Ignorant of the fact they just nearly brained him with said ball. So quick to divulge the violence.
Also, hi,
Interest-
Sonic.
And very inefficient as well. If you wanted to cause maximum damage, you would hit him in the face with the cover of the book, not throw the somewhat more cushiony pages at it.
But he did wish to, as it were, throw the book at him. And notice how he's preserving the flower in just but a cup. It won't live. In fact, one could argue he's making it suffer by prolonging its existence.
Estoy preocupada por Jimmy, Sam.
Estudia demasiado.
Jimmy no es como tú, Sam. Él quiere hacer algo creativo en la vida.
Then again, what is existence past the damnation and death but a prolonged suffering?
Se preocupa mucho por todo lo que tiene vida. Es tan sensible.
I believe his father is now calling him the cat again.
Siento que están sufriendo.
Because his mother says their son is trying to make something of himself.
A veces escucho voces que me llaman.
What
He's hearing voices in his head. It's talking.
Young children are often in tune with the Gamatrons.
I just thought that was a disco planet.
It's not atypical for things in the sky to change color, but for a star to do so in rapid succession, I gather it is going to be relevant to this film's plot.
Just as the fact he has seemingly miraculously teleported at least hundreds of miles to reach the shoreline, whereas previously he established he lived in the city.
Close to the water.
Metphis, you said children were very responsive to Gamatron. Is that why you had basically used it as a night light for Haruo?
Precisely. And now he is speculating that here he can feel it more in tune with the flow of life, where the stars meet the sea and the sea meets the land. In other words, he is trying to find the attunement of the three elemental planes. And apparently he has not heard of the third generation of Pokemon, was it?
Yes, that was the anime I referred to earlier.
Ah. Didn't survive the purge.
Speaking
I
of
believe
teleports, how did she
Godzilla
get
blew up
here?
Toei Studios. And she saw him running out here and was coming out to see what was going on. Because she thinks he is a bit of a crazy person for going outside like this at this random hour.
That is a very fine bit of deductive reasoning on her part.
They're wondering about the necessaries and sustenance of life, and exchanging names. so they know of what to call each other. Even though clearly their designs are so unique, they would not need such to be able to distinguish one another.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how you can tell Haruo from the crowd, that basic bitch he is.
Ah, this is her younger brother. And he thinks that she has snuck out to see her boyfriend, even though these two have literally just met. Interesting, his first thoughts upon arrival are about basic courtship and social dynamic. This child, whom is so apparently driven by such empathy, has such a primitive onlook at life, by many other definitions, and yet by the very definition of the Star People, of which we will meet shortly, as to why he was chosen, it is because of purity. This child is the purest form of humanity, and we will see it again and again as we proceed in our feature. The Gammatrons are kicking in now.
What?
Holy!
What Hideakiano bullshit is this?
It's the space egg.
I believe they are now in the end of Evangelion.
Lord
So
Metphis,
does
what
that
is
mean
the end of
main guys that try to
Evangelion?
strangle the female?
Drugs, Crystal. Drugs.
Oof.
But wait, does this mean we're gonna have like the main lead try to strangle the female lead while Cross is in the background?
Well, I have heard some previous viewings. Haruo wishes the main lead strangle that small child. That was after a couple of viewings where he wouldn't stop screaming.
Yeah, you know, I thought he only had that level of hatred for Godzilla. Damn, this kid must be annoying.
Well, it was a Gamma music earlier, and noises naturally would have such things called a Kenny. The Star People are saying that the young children have empathy with each other and others and all life, because they are able to speak the unspoken language that adults forget. And they want to show them a voyage through time to educate them on the meanings of life and extinction. We never see these Star People, by the way. In fact, it is stated that they evolved past their need for a physical body. If that is true, they are quite an accurate representation of what God is.
You know, this animated adaptation of Marvel is very weird.
Notably, they only
Also, why
wanted
is
to
he
take
doing
the
the
boy
Sonic
and the
roll?
girl. You were saying, Tim?
Why is that boy doing the Sonic roll into the teleporter?
Because he was not required for this mission, and so they decided to reference a Sega character in the animation studio.
Gotta go fast.
They are passing through billions of stars and systems in but a blink.
Lord Metphis, isn't that at some of those stars some of the ones that we've seen on our travels?
Indeed. Where else do you think I got the map for our journey from?
That explains a good deal.
Humanity has often fetishized the stars, and yet they can never reach them. Pointless destruction and engineering on efforts to reach them, strive for them, name them, and yet they only badly manage to pass their moon.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars?
Once we get past that, Metphis, I assure you, we can get there.
And yet you required our help to get on this ship. The sun is the genesis of all life. It is also the genesis of all matter and energy on Earth. If one defines a deity by the matter of how they create or destroy, you could say the sun is your god. There are
So what
some
the
planets.
solitary piece of media said, praise the sun.
Yeah,
So what
Paul
you
was
were-
right.
So what you're saying is that those ancient Egyptians were the ones who were the closest to having the right of it.
They forgot the number of hits, though. You see, Venus once did have conditions possibly powerful to produce life, and yet the sun snuffed out its atmosphere with a solar wind. Such creation and such devastation, with not a single soul to comprehend it. But on Earth it was slightly different. By chance, your magnetic field was strong enough. Over time, rains came, eventually filled up an ocean, as the planets cooled from magma into more solidified rock and crust. And yet for billions of years, single-celled organisms were able to propagate and exist without a single moment of comprehension.
Howdy, Nick. Hey, Dunkleosteus.
And Nautiluses. Not alive.
Nope, not Dunkleosteus.
Well,
Hi, Teddy.
I believe that's supposed to be like a Eustripteron or something.
Samoria, actually.
Meganura.
And that would be Europs.
So this was the movie that Metphis was playing 24/7? Only too bad so far.
Well, we've only just begun.
I wonder why so many people went insane on the ship.
And I think that's the Permian extinction.
The Great Dying, as the historical records call it.
Such a poignant name for such a pointless extinction. Why even care about so many life dying when so much more appeared afterwards?
Shut up, Baggin.
That was beautiful.
And now we have entered the proper age of dinosaurs, and we welcome such an age by showing you absolutely no dinosaurs on screen.
I like the red and blue.
Well, I mean, you have a Tylosaurus and a Elasmosaurus duking it out.
Inaccurately rendered, no less.
Yes.
I'm reminded of the disappointment I witnessed in this one movie I saw back on Earth.
What would that be?
They called it The Legend of the Dinosaurs and Monster Birds, and yet it featured neither of such.
Nor a legend, if I recall. And yet these Pteranodon, which name means winged thing without teeth, still are stubbornly rendered with such.
They're supposed to be pterodactyls.
Okay, quick question. Is anybody on any drugs right now?
No.
Nope.
Damn. We believe the makers of this movie and possibly Hideki Anno.
They are now depositing the children, unsupervised, with no protection, into the past, to throw them into the gauntlet of life and death that was existence far beyond any time of the bygone era of which humans could comprehend it.
So they're an ark.
More specifically, on the beach.
Oh, so you're talking about Florida last year.
I believe Florida was underwater, so Florida is slightly off the beach.
Curious how the one definition you defined us with, Lord Metphis, led to all of us drawing a number of unique conclusions.
Is not that how comprehension works?
Profound.
And move when it hurts.
Millions of synapses working within your mind, firing off electrical signals at different intervals so you can perceive different alternatives of the infinity. Yet who was right? The fact many of you had multiple choices to such implies that there is no right answer, because there cannot be multiple ones. Therefore, everything is wrong.
Huh, I had a similar reaction when I watched that Dear Evan Hansen movie.
And the young child, of whom we now know is the purest form of humanity, as you will see shortly, his first order of business is to fashion a weapon of which to attack other animals, despite the fact they have been unmolested by anything they've passed by.
I mean, in fairness to the kid, he's already taken the initiative to defend himself and take acts of war.
But how are they to know they even need such? For all they know, the aliens provided them with some sort of defensive barrier against carnivores, or aggressive herbivores.
And why did the
How do you know
buttons
they
on
have
his and why did the buttons on his overalls look like hands?
See, this small creature meant them no harm. And yet here he is trying to brutalize it. For what end?
Good kid. War is strength.
And yet war is what devastated the planet. Far more than any animal ever did.
That I argue it's Godzilla.
And now he is brimming with pride, thinking he can fend off anything with just that stick. Pride and brutalization, unknowns amongst any other creature.
Children can be so cruel when they sense weakness.
It's a cruel Jack.
But
Life can be so cruel when it senses weakness.
But wasn't Godzilla exceptionally brutal at how he dispatched everything? Doesn't that show that it exists in other species?
But as I believe the song from the game Metal Gear Rising Revengeance put it, violence begets violence, and in the end it had to be that way. Monsters are, after all, just definitions that we give to something that's uncontrollable and destructive. To Earth, you are the monsters.
Metphis a gamer then.
Metphis is a gamer.
I indulge in all matters of human culture. Pointless destruction that suits no physical end or biological function. Yet the Star People were so quick to judge dinosaurs as the backwards brutes. Who amongst this looks like the brute? It is fortunate that egg was near to term.
Okay, I'm gonna call this one a...
They appear to be some sort... Are you...
I'll just go first. So I'm gonna call the baby trike in my hand Umasao. You are also Umasao, and you are the third Umasao, and you are the fourth Umasao. You are all Umasao.
It's a hypothesis put forth by Jiro here, the seemingly enlightened Jiro, that dinosaurs were completely lacking in parental care and relied on heat to insulate the nest. And yet such beasts persisted for millions of years longer than mankind ever has, all while he is ignorant of his own self-repelling and suffering ignorance as to the biological function as to not notice birds exhibit parental care, and the meaning of his hypothesis is incorrect.
Oh, there's the Godzilla roar.
Is it possible that the animators were tapping into some collective subconscious to glimpse the future as to the creature of their monsters? And giving the voices of this dinosaur the same to be the beast that drove humanity to the stars?
And yet it's also possible that it is drawing from the past. It was common in children's media for a black Tyrannosaurus with red eyes to be the monster menacing a group of children, often with a persistence that ill befit it.
Specifically aimed at children. I would presume someone is projecting.
Either that or Haruo broke into the record and replaced the dinosaur's roar with Godzilla's to reflect his inner fear and anger at the creature.
Well, I did say they were all Umasao. And Umasao is the Japanese word for delicious.
Yeah, also just to check, is my thing working?
Correct.
Yeah.
We can hear you, Kenny.
Licking them lips.
Well, there's baby murder.
Oh, Godzilla.
It is... Perhaps it is for the best that student Ari did not choose to attend this class.
Barely. Though she has recently indulged in plenty of dinosaur mania, I don't think it's all that remiss for her to take a break.
God damn it, Ari. She couldn't make it to the stream, so she has to compensate with baby murder that we have to witness without her.
Notice that the Tyrannosaur has a decidedly human-like face and human-like functions, such as licking its lips. It also exhibits sadism.
It also appears to be far larger than a T-Rex should logically be in some scenes, but relatively accurate side in others.
Along with standing...
There's no one here in the Godzilla.
I put it out early on.
Oh, okay.
And I'm back. What did I miss?
Godzilla.
Infant murder.
Godzilla's here.
The young child attempted to destroy a nest of eggs for seemingly no reason whatsoever, and then a Tyrannosaur came and did the actual job.
Lovely.
And now he taunts it. What
Provoke
would be
the
the
enemy,
benefit
they're
of
making a fool of
inciting
his
anger upon it? It can't comprehend being jilted, jealous, or envious, or angry. So why is he executing such mean notions towards such a creature that can't even exhibit them?
The only explanation is that it is for some sort of own self-benefit on the psychological sense.
And what does that speak of him?
Worth considering.
There are creatures that are smart enough to possess a grudge or sorrow. I do not know Tyrannosaurs were one of them.
And would you want to
Lord
benefit
Metphis, all this
somehow
content.
by causing a Tyrannosaur to have a grudge?
Well, perhaps Lord Metphis, all of this is a psychological coping mechanism to prevent a complete breakdown from all the stress accumulating from his adventure.
And the creature chooses to watch them all night, despite having just and there being presumably other more viable prey nearby.
They are noting that the child is now starving. The baby Triceratops, not the boy. But none of them feel hungry.
Infants, coming from my own personal experience, they need to eat.
He also, supposedly, despite being the enlightened one, Juro speculates that the Tyrannosaur is literally too stupid to stop chasing them.
Oh shit!
That is unnecessary.
Yeah, shit.
Kids.
Wait a minute, don't the historical records show that the Tyrannosaurus Rex species' arms were far too small to reach its head?
Yet note this one's proportions are much more similar to Godzilla. I still speculate that this was a collective consciousness creating such an entity, given that this clearly does not resemble an actual Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the animators would have known that if they had the most basic of reference.
And look, its eyes are now intact.
And now we hear the Gamera audio, so I suppose this would be as close as you could get to Godzilla vs. Gamera.
Unfortunately, the studio rights never aligned for such a creation to exist before the end of days.
And yes,
this also actually reminds me of the fight from the last dinosaur. Oh my god, it's the same choreography as that suit fight from the last dinosaur we watched a while back.
Yes, stabbing in the groin seems to be a common tactic of ceratopsians in these sort of media.
I mean, it is an...
These are kids' films. Why are they showing this much blood?
Yeah, and presumably the Tyrannosaurus should be bleeding out at this point, but somehow it is still fighting. Maybe they also gave it Godzilla's healing factor unknowingly.
Well, this Tyrannosaurus, I would presume, actually represents something about humanity, and thus you cannot destroy it so easily.
The blood is pink.
And now its
Maybe
eye is
it's
damaged
an
again.
early representation of the Godzillasaurus.
Right in the bubblegum packet. What?
Well, on the bright side, if this was an accurate Tyrannosaur, it would no longer pursue them because it has an entire corpse on which to feed.
I suppose it's time.
Tyrannosaur sure as hell ain't accurate.
I suppose it's time to see if this film will subscribe to a rule of film that I read about in the old Hitchcock entries. Films should be stronger than logic.
They're passing
So you
through
gotta hop off
untold
and go to
distances.
bed.
Good night.
I'm
I
tired.
shall send you a copy of this to see on your own time. There will be
No,
a quiz
thanks,
about
I'm
it
good.
on the tomorrow.
Good night, buddy.
Good night.
Good night, Zurich.
They have been passing through for an untold amount of time, and yet they still never feel hungry. Now are they even still alive? Or is this just a fantasy?
He is a
this
fantasy.
real life?
Either that or those alien things gave him some sort of technology that allowed him to survive.
Is this real life?
And these things Ramphorhynchus are supposed to have teeth.
Oh, fuck.
Is not life but one large cornucopia of death. One life
wonder if
given
it-
to make for another.
I wonder if this was a deliberate decision on the animator's part to have a water or in the ocean here or have a red tint to it, as if to say that this is a sea of blood.
Consider the red sky.
Is it Hell's Ocean?
The fact that this is sunset.
Covered in
And
blood.
once again here, Jiro is prescribing humanist traits to animals by implying all the dinosaurs are gluttonous by constantly eating.
Our Sciences.
Spontaneous time-traveling Dimetrodon.
Iguanodon.
I also note there they just directly contradicted their own assessment by saying dinosaurs do not have parental care by having the baby Iguanodon nestled up to their father.
I wonder if this wasn't the original Japanese script, and I wonder. Oh, and now there's another crapping out eggs.
What's going on? Is Goku preparing the spirit bomb?
No. Though, honestly, considering how this world's about to go, one might almost wish for it. The contrast of the thriving natural world of the ecology of the Mesozoic to the modern-day slots of humanity's civilization. One that apparently eludes our supposedly enlightened Jiro. He is seeing a similarity between the two.
Ice Age. Oh.
A one-eyed black sharp-tooth persistently pursuing a group of young children kills the presumed mother of a young dinosaur, and there's an earthquake in it. Perhaps it's just my subconscious, but I can't help but feel like I've seen this before.
Well, there is one noted difference. Baby
Aren't any
Puss,
humans
as he
in the
was
other
named, has matured.
Uh-huh.
I would also note this movie came out 10 years prior to Land Before Time.
Huh. Interesting how time works.
Well, time itself has just been exploited and made bendable by the fact of Baby Puss entering a time distortion, coming out a rough teenager by the look of it.
But isn't time, in and of itself, just a construct by sapient minds to quantify what is quantifiable?
No, it is also a measure of change. After all, stars change without a single soul to behold them.
Creo que tiene razón. Los extraños del platillo volador adelantaron el tiempo. ¿Por qué sería?
And now they instantly look to exploit their friend for their own benefit by using him as the ride. Despite the fact none of them ever get tired.
Hey, hardheads.
Ah, yes. Ah, yes, they have wandered upon a territorial line.
A classic dinosaur ritual. The head butt.
The only dinosaurs I've seen that looked like that were Praenocephaly, but that's way before this.
Oh, this is a Pachycephalosaur. These two males are exchanging so much amount of energy and risk of dangerous threat and injury for one simple requirement. They all seek the same notion. And the same end goal.
What?
Wait, what?
What? But
Did I just see a
I
Stegosaurus
apologize. I feel
I
like
knew they could shoot the spines like missiles. I knew it.
Is not reality how we comprehend it. If you saw something that seems incomprehensible, that is your reality.
His spines literally just said fuck work and just left.
They are endeavoring on such matters for the sake of her.
Ah, yes, a tale as old as time. Two bros fighting over who gets to fuck the girl.
Interesting that you note the fault would be on the males there for such an odd endeavor, yet they are doing it for the female's favor. Would that not mean she is the cause of this?
Now, aren't there some species that, in which the females fight over the males?
And would not that be the inverse? Do you blame the participants or the cause?
Also, despite being herbivores, the Pachycephalosaurus appear to have sharp teeth.
And that guy's throat just got gouged out. Holy cow.
And he is still having death throes. You know, I'm beginning to realize why Haruo has so many issues.
Chobi here is wishing that the two males would gang up on the Tyrannosaur, showing he still thirsts for blood even though to his own benefit. There is no benefit to him, and yet he still demands they fight. Their survival instincts imply they should just do the otherwise.
Somebody hates the youngest child.
Juro is also noting that the Tyrannosaur seems to be following them. Despite there being ample food elsewhere, he's wondering about why would such a destructive, hateful beast ever exist. Noticeably, he's projecting onto it. He also earlier called it the most bloodthirsty, brutal animal of which ever to exist. I believe Juro here might actually suffer from multiple personality disorder and/or schizophrenia, and is projecting upon it.
Hi, I'm back. I just gotta say, I forgot to mention that this movie is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
Indeed. How else do you think it got on the Aratrum?
No.
I edited out all of the advertisements. No worries.
That is good. That is good. Unfortunately, ad block was one of the things that went up in fire when Godzilla destroyed the civilization.
Yes, but somehow we were also able to bring the entire production crew of Raid Shadow. I wonder how they managed to secure that proceeds.
Licensing deal.
Library.
Much of the Aratrum was actually funded by them. If you look very closely on the videos of Windows Mechagodzilla attempt, you can actually see advertisements for Raid on the back spines.
Oh yes, I remember that Gaigan also had a few on his chest, if I remember.
No, he was sponsored by Candy Crush and Lily's Garden, I believe. Now they are witnessing to the Catechism.
You're also witnessing cheap animation that crossfades instead of animating.
Well, that dude got fucked.
And yet, when you say Cataclysm, which one would it be in the historical records?
Is not just the perception of this catechism as specifically bad. Interesting to note, considering how many there were in the past that go otherwise unnoted.
Also,
Why put
those
such
dinosaurs.
emphasis on this one?
Also, those dinosaurs are burning to death.
Damn, they died.
Yeah, and
that was a lava tidal wave.
God was unsatisfied with creation.
And contrary to what fiction often portrays, death by lava is actually far more horrifying and painful than you would think.
You could almost call it a wildfire tsunami of sorts.
Oh, I got that.
And despite there being ample dead carcasses about, they are still worrying about carnivores. Torrential downpours have begun. The world is beginning to cry, as he notes. Once again, the Tyrannosaur is the subject of projection. No carnivore would ever risk an open fight when there are ample dead bodies around.
Unless it's really, really bored and has nothing to do.
Oh fuck, it's Barney!
I'm also aware that humans, though I suppose this Tyrannosaur would not have any frame of reference for how humans taste, I am also aware that we are not a very large meal for such a creature.
No, though we might smell similar to the small mammals they might have been consuming as an infant, and thus we could smell like baby food.
And once
we to prehistoric creatures would be what a potato chip is to us.
So yeah, maybe not a full meal, but a light snack, maybe.
I note the oddity on how the Tyrannosaur's arm claws are yet somehow larger than the Triceratops's horns. Clearly this poor individual had a stunted growth, no doubt to blame with the child, only feeding it junk food.
Oh, Rex is literally whipping that boy.
Beat them down with the
Correct that whip!
Commenting on the Tyrannosaurus size, if they were to get their hands on the humans, it would end up very similar to a certain part of the internet I'm glad was wiped out in the end times.
The trike has hands?
Ceratopsians are descendants of bipedal creatures.
And the Triceratops seems to be going for the groin every single attack.
Yeah, it does seem to be marginally effective.
Yes, especially because traditionally, if the Triceratops horns pierce there, it should probably cause rapid death by bleeding.
Verily, I believe specimen UMP-855 suffered a stab wound from the Triceratops in a similar location.
Oh.
It should be noted that the Triceratops did not want to fight, but is compelled to do so because of the boy. His presence, while desired by it, is directly a cause for this.
Oh,
you're piercing my jaw.
And now he is regretful about the violence he has precipitated. All while noting that his friend did win that fight, as if that would matter to such a creature. The very such notions that compelled him to blind and enrage the Tyrannosaur to begin with directly resulted in the death of his friend. If the Triceratops could even comprehend such a thing.
Well, it
this
is
boy
not.
has completely ruined its life.
Well, Triceratops are herd creatures, so by nature it would seek companionship.
Yes, but it only saw him as a companion because he forced it to hatch early, also forcing its siblings to hatch early, which resulted directly in their demise and the death of its mother. This child has a body count.
The body count is rising.
It's not unheard of for humans to amass a body count even as children, but this one seems particularly roundabout.
As I said, a truest manifestation of humanity's purity. The difference between these three and the rest of the beings on this planet is that they are able to comprehend their surroundings. But what is sapience but the comprehension of such an articulated language, which is also a synaptic construction of the mental processes within our mind, of which to convey information that is often otherwise meaningless. If ignorance is bliss, what has the rest of the natural world lived in that humanity has been denied of? When they take of the fruit of the Garden of Eden, they took of their own damnation, regardless of any God existing or not.
I am uncertain as to what animal.
All the world is dying, and because this notion by Jiro, the dinosaurs being unsuccessful in any other environment other than the pristine of which could propagate their own, they are all dying. There is no food left, but each other.
This is that Disney dinosaur stuff.
Leí una nueva teoría muy interesante, que tal vez una estrella cercana a la Tierra estalló y debido a la radiación de esa explosión murieron los dinosaurios.
¡Qué interesante!
Aunque solo es una teoría, nadie sabe con seguridad por qué se extinguieron. La mayoría de los científicos creen que fue una combinación de varias cosas.
¿Tú qué opinas?
No lo sé, Chip. Sigue siendo un misterio hasta la fecha.
¿Estás hablando de esta fecha de hoy?
No, hablo de 65 millones de años adelante.
He is lamenting how humanity is seemingly dooming itself to the same endeavors, ignorant of how they are doing themselves in by their own hand, whereas the dinosaurs were done in by a catastrophically unlucky event of an asteroid impact.
Algunas personas creen que
At least, none of which on their blame. They were unable to comprehend the trueness of their nature and take about the fruit, therefore arrangements had to be made.
Una cosa sí es segura. Si el cerebro del dinosaurio no hubiera sido tan pequeño, tal vez hubiera ideado la forma de salvarse.
Now the small mammals will have their time.
¡Jimmy, esos ratones huyen despavoridos! No les tengas miedo. Son los que recogen la basura, Becky. Ellos dejarán todo limpio.
The last of the eggs will be destroyed. All of the infant dinosaurs will never see their world. They will be devoured within their nest. And so will come the time of cold. They are still walking through time, though apparently Jiro has saw fit to completely skip over a vast majority of the entire Cenozoic era.
You know, Metphis, that does raise a question. Humans evolved from mammals, specifically apes. What did your kind evolve from?
Saber-tooth?
Let me guess. Others.
No.
Wait.
I believe the closest equivalent on our planet to yours would be lemurs.
No podíamos imaginar de qué se trataría la nueva aventura que nos prepararon los extraños del platillo volador.
Odd that of the three sapient species aboard this shuttle, all three seem to have evolved from some form of primate.
Hey, there's Manny.
The primate is the predetermined destination of which to behold the Almighty eventually.
It's Diego! Diego, no!
Diego!
Wow, he's lost a lot of weight.
Oh, fuck!
Oh, Diego!
Oh,
fuck, Manny has no chill.
And despite the mammoth saving that man's life, his tribe instantly turns their machine gun spear launchers upon it. Why? There was ample food elsewhere, why slay this animal?
In fact,
Humanity treasured their tusks.
So, and also the mammoth, while a much larger meal, also would not have devoured the saber-tooth, leaving it for the tribe to eat.
He's still alive? What?
Ah yes, after millions of years, this creature is miraculously survived. We now have a Tyrannosaur loose in the Ice Age.
Which, to my knowledge, is not actually as inaccurate as it would seem. Not the precision, but the ability to withstand cold.
Indeed.
Oh man, I would have liked Manny versus Rex, but...
Okay, if there are Jewish duckbills, I'm out of here.
They're comprehending that the Tyrannosaur seems to have chased them through space and time, and that he will never stop following them. The Tyrannosaur is indicative of something. And then miraculously, the Ice Age came to an abrupt end.
I would note that contrary to what a riffable movie that we may or may not one day witness, the Ice Age did not, in fact, kill the dinosaurs. There's still, clearly one still remaining.
Yes, unfortunately, there was a man with a doctorate in cryogenics which has propagated quite the misinformation. And miraculously, the whole valley is pristine in the matter of moments, or these children's perception of time is truly warped.
Metphis, is your throat okay? You seem to have had to clear it there.
Oh, I am fine.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
My infant mortal shell is sometimes in need of medical examination, but I am fine. Once again, Jiro, the supposed learned man, is spouting absolute nonsense when he replies that dinosaurs have been depicted in cave art, showing that some of them didn't survive into the age of man. Unless he is referring to pictures of birds, I do not believe he is correct. And Shiro is once again calling for blood.
So, I do question the possibility of that in our particular reality, given many of the kaiju that emerged along with Godzilla did indeed resemble dinosaurs.
Resemble, but no, turns out they're all just French iguanas.
God damn it.
And once again, Shiro turns his anger out on fruitless, endeavorless, rewardless devastation to natural life. That butterfly has done absolutely nothing to him.
I was just gonna say that, Tim. Fuck you, butterfly.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken from the records, I cannot pronounce their species name, I mean their genus name. How do you pronounce that? Lepteron? I cannot pronounce.
Lepteron?
Yes, Lepteron seem to have had a relatively symbiotic relationship with us due to pollinating flowers and apparently one gigantic specimen defending us from Godzilla.
Yes, that sacrilegious thing was thusly struck down.
Seguramente se está escondiendo de nosotros. Está bien, Chip. Nos damos por vencidos. ¿Dónde estás?
Blasphemous bug.
And yet, is the blasphemous bug not defending nature, of which you're teaching us to treasure, rather than the dangers of technology, of which your god is a supercomputer?
Did I actually teach you to treasure nature? Or did I merely know that devastation of nature and devastation of man are but one and the same?
Neither.
The dinosaurs were ignorant on the comprehension of their world and endeavors in existence. Changes had to be made. We Exif have been navigating the stars for a long time. It didn't take long to find the right asteroid.
Also, Metphis, I thought your species were relatively emotionless. You seem to have displayed anger there for a moment.
Simply you misread. I was only stating a truth. Also, the children are miraculously able to understand everything these Neanderthals are stating, and yes, they are supposed to be Neanderthals, because they have the power of empathy and belief, which gives them the ability to understand what is going on in another's hearts as an adult cannot. A ceremony is endeavored.
I will, however...
Not gonna lie.
You go, Tim.
I'm not gonna lie, I look at these Neanderthals and I'm just reminded of those credit card commercials or whatnot, or was it car insurance? I can't remember which.
Car insurance, I believe. Geico.
You were saying, Ed?
I will give the movie credit that these Neanderthals do not resemble many pop cultural representations, rather they simply appear to be an alternate branch of humanity as they truly were.
And yet they were destroyed.
Were they really destroyed, given we interbred with them and became a singular subspecies?
Who's to say that it was a benevolent interbreeding?
Also, somehow the chief or priest has managed to make the skull move with his lips.
Well, that's because he appears to be a Tezuka character, and Butterfly, the name of that young girl, that is her older sister being put up for some sort of action.
Blood for the blood god.
The little girl is named Butterfly, so does that mean the mindset of the kid earlier switched from fuck you to Butterfly to when he met the girl to fuck Butterfly?
Well, they are children, but clearly he had propagation on his mind and how he quickly jumped to the conclusion his sister was sneaking out with her boyfriend. Also, this man must be a time traveler, given there seems to be a band-aid stuck to the bottom of his foot.
Yeah.
Also, somehow they managed to construct an entire altar, which I do not believe people of this time would have been capable of.
Of some manners, bear skulls have been found as fashioned into altars or centerpieces.
True, but I do not believe they would be able to construct a massive stone thing with very clearly cut, precise steps.
Miraculous things can be found in nature at times. Some things might have been provided. They are endeavoring onto the path of which to enlightenment, comprehending something stronger than themselves.
Yes, also, are we sure that they are still in the timeline from which they emerged and have not somehow altered history drastically with their existence?
There's the question. Also, they are directly stating that the power of the prayers of the tribe are what are drawing the Tyrannosaur closer and causing it to be deified and to also encroach into becoming a deity itself. So the children are endeavoring to pray against the prayers of the tribe on the logic that their more advanced, modern, civilized minds would be superior to the tribes, and thus be able to banish the Tyrannosaur away. This is a matter of wish.
You would think that the more logical explanation would be that children's minds are far more imaginative and prone to believing in the impossible than adults. Also, I will also note, while the rest of the tribe appears to be wearing normal furs of more realistic variety, the leader seems to be wearing what would be a pop culture interpretation of a caveman's outfit.
After all, he's a Tezuka character.
I mean, if we're noting the dress of the Neanderthals, I noticed that all the women are technically topless.
They got the same body styles as Barbie.
Well, only on some shots. It's not consistent.
But consistency across a sapient form implies conformity, and that is something that can never be truly endeavored on the 100% scale in a sapient mind.
Yes, but it is a depiction, and depiction by nature are supposed to be consistent.
If I'm not mistaken, the Bill Saluto's ultimate goal is to become very mechanical and logically minded to the point that would be that there would not be much difference between them.
And yet you don't see them in charge of class tonight.
Yeah, speaking of which, I do not see many in the audience either. They must not have liked this film very much. Then again, they have a lack of luck.
Here, I have duct taped them to the air ducts, so they are forced to watch. They were being too rowdy. Also, the power of the children's wish has caused the Tyrannosaur to fall
Sleep. Kid comes on real shit.
Oh, I will note that throughout history, this is not entirely unusual, given there are multiple various primitive tribes deifying a certain animal of particular note.
The man is envious and feeling spite and anger for his worldview being challenged. He cannot comprehend that this is a good thing by most people's metrics. Then again, would his not also be a good thing by many metrics? It keeps the Tyrannosaur pacified.
And logically, the Tyrannosaur would be handling other apex predators in the region and keeping them under control as the apex predator itself.
But the fact in the matter is that his hatred has engendered within its awakening.
It also appears the chief's entire head is covered in black hair, including his forehead and cheekbones.
He now believes that the only way to fix this is to sacrifice them all, but they are still adamant that his hatred has caused this problem. I'd like to note they are noting about the merits of wish and hatred in front of an animal that cannot comprehend either of those.
True, though it would appear, since the prayers do reach it, that it has somehow transcended mere animalists and become some sort of embodiment of something.
It cannot comprehend and yet is perfectly able to express it.
Also, with what we just viewed, the T-Rex spent that entire scene standing on its tiptoes on the side of a cliff face.
Man, ballerinas are much older than I thought.
Also, that is a bizarrely hollowed out skull that the chief there was wearing.
And also, the chief literally looks like a Muppet, I'm just gonna say it.
I believe the one that he would also resemble a Sesame Street character named Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah,
well, if nothing else, the name is appropriate.
I believe they call it the chief.
Oh, great, that T-Rex is gonna cut hairballs.
All the chiefs, all of the tribe, are too scared. Despite the logical thing being to run or fight back, they choose the illogical and fall to the ground scared and praying. And these are supposed to be the enlightened beings of this world.
Well, you know, it's the early game meta of humanity. They suddenly work out a few kinks here and there.
Yes, I will also note that this T-Rex apparently not only survived into the modern day, but survived plunging off of a cliff that was probably larger than a skyscraper.
And once again, the young child calls for blood.
While killing in self-defense is arguably justified in this situation because the creature is trying to devour them, at the same time he appears, while I do not understand the language, he appears to be wanting the blood specifically for his Triceratops friend.
He is feeling the fires of courage, as he calls it, though I would argue, as he and both the narration calls it fires of courage and love, this is quite the opposite. Supposedly, he is compelled by the love of his departed friend to fight this Tyrannosaur, and yet, he was already bloodthirsty to begin with. This is not love, this is not compassion, this is just more slaughter.
Can you say tainted love? Ho ho ho, tainted love.
I am honestly surprised that young Haruo does not enjoy this character. It seems like they have a lot in common.
Oh, he came to enjoy them after the screaming. That was the 60th viewing, I believe. I would also note this child was not even intended to go. Originally, this venture was just the older sister, and the young man here.
I do not believe...
And he passes out.
Yes. Also, I do not believe that spears would be able to penetrate the thick scales of a Tyrannosaurus that size.
In that regard, this film appears to be sticking for at least semi-realism, as over half of them are bouncing off.
And his actions have directly caused the deaths of multiple people.
Yes,
it also happened that 50% of those who died were 2 days from retirement.
And now we see the truest nature of collective consciousness. The destructive intent of existence, the sapient mind simultaneously able to comprehend itself and its world, yet stubbornly refuses to ever do so. Not when its world is populated by living miracles, marvels of evolutionary change by millions of years of its own fellows and sapients. In the end, the continued persistence of the sapient mind is chiefly engendered not by its introspective retrospectives, but its introspective existence in itself. No comprehension and therefore lacking in its marked intent of non-sapients, the brutish existence derided by those of civilization. But the sapient mind is just another adaptation of evolution and not one that particularly changes the outlook and existence of one in contrast to others. They are still selfish beings of which all propagate, consume, and live by a system of exchanges where right and wrong are determinations by the dopamine emission rates within our minds. Just as this Tyrannosaurus continued its existence determined by a function of finding a mate, consuming flesh and water, and continuing its own ignorance and existence, so would have the machinations of war and destruction by technology persisted mankind through the same functions. The only marked difference between an ignorant animal and the so-called enlightened humans is merely the application of the definitions of which societal constructs such as the honorable and noble as to what is savage in contrast. To the last dinosaur that ever drew its breath, its very persistence into this life of this bygone era of age after the age of ice is seen as nothing short of a miracle by chance and circumstances of a will to survive transcending time. The humans would have to be the savages. Humans, indeed, are the savages in this situation. It did not ask to be worshipped, it did not even comprehend such an action, just as it would be ignorant to comprehend the function and very definition of devastation and revenge. And yet those very concepts, in the end, are what destroyed it.
Yes, and I also must admit, for all this movie's faults, at least it is accurate in how much effort it would probably take primitive humans to kill a Tyrannosaur.
To be honest, based on historical records there, student Kenny, I must admit, I believe this movie is still, to use the 21st language slang, lowballing it.
Yes, though it is still far better than I believe, fanfic that enraged one of our crew, where a person managed to kill a full-grown Tyrannosaurus with a bow and arrow.
So, if I may speak, Lord Fenimes, to my understanding, you were saying one of the imperatives of humanity to continue its barbarity is the goal to propagate, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
So, an idea here that I got from reading either a manga or an anime, I can't remember which, but I think David here might know the one. If we were to engender a plan to take away humanity's ability to reproduce and have it be euthanized within the next 100 years, would that truly create peace?
Would there not be numbness to propagate war? And what is the opposite of peace? And now they are also prophesying about humanity's difference from the dinosaurs, on how both are seemingly doomed to destruction in the end because of our own violent tendencies sparked by this conflict against primitive man between them and a beast. The dinosaurs, especially this Tyrannosaurus, was an engine of destruction by their own metrics, because by their definition it was endeavored as a savage. And in the end, what was the savages that killed it?
Not to mention that most of the dinosaurs died due to a natural cataclysm rather than their own violence.
Or an ignorant child that constantly destroyed nests and attacked them unprovoked. Note and lament, the only thing that differs humanity from the savage beasts of the bygone past is their seeming capacity to feel compassion for each other and other beings, an endeavor of which I do believe this film also noted many fail utterly to do. In the end, they might be doomed to repeat the same mistake.
Para tratar de despertar el poder de la sabiduría, el amor y la empatía que poseemos todos.
Aprendan la lección del dinosaurio, el destino del poderoso gigante que solo vive para destruir y devorar.
Comprehension of humanity's downfall and devastation through technology that suits little to no end in the end regards. Why is competition such an endeavor within the humanity's realm when it seemingly is such a product of that savage time before civilization? I also note that apparently the owners of this film could not spring to actually film a Tyrannosaurus skeleton in a museum, so they settled for this Tarbosaurus.
I would also note that despite clearly having access to preserved skeletons, they could not be bothered to make their Tyrannosaurus's head look anything remotely similar to the actual creature. Also, my feline is here.
And Ari is here. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe perhaps Ken's feline and Ari are one and the same, so when Ken says the feline is here, it is Ari. Hello, Ari.
Now, class, have we learned anything?
Yeah, never invites you to parties.
This movie is... I am uncertain if I would have understood this movie better if it were in English or not.
I was translating the gist of it.
In the end, I think this movie is an attempt at a warning. Whether or not it succeeds at that, it is up for the individuals to decide. I myself found myself drawn to Lord Metphis' narration in large portions, as there were large stretches of effectively nothing happening, and the animation was not able to fill that void of time with entertaining material.
Well, I am pleasant to hear that my narration and the subjugation of the plotline has thus been successful. If you all wish to endeavor in more pursuits, I will be in charge of the Gamatron meeting later this morning in the worship hall. Do come, and feel free to bring snacks, though if you wish to return and go to more meetings, I recommend you mind the shadows.